What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Second Passport. Today I'm checking in. This week I just agreed and signed to sell a property here in Ecuador. So I thought I'd share the whole process of the sales process in Ecuador, how it works down here, because it's definitely different than the States, and how to avoid getting ripped off in a country where there's not really any escrow system. Here, I was selling a property this week here in Guayaquil, Ecuador, here in the north. This week I just signed phase one, right? Step one. It's basically I try to think of steps and make this more complicated, but really it's not in Ecuador. It's really not complicated at all to buy or sell a property unless the property has title issues, in which case I would say just avoid it. Just avoid it completely unless I guess unless the deal is super good, but that's rare. But anyway, I just did the first step today in the sale of a condo that I have in Guayaquil, and that is you sign the promesa de compraventa, or the promise of sale, right? And then that stipulates how long you're giving the buyer to come up with the rest of the cash. Usually they leave you a down payment. In my case, they left me $10,000 for an $82,000 condo I'm selling. And what they're gonna do, I gave them 3 months to complete the sale, but it's written right in the contract there before you sign it, within a notary. And so the next step is they have to complete the sale within that time that you stipulated. And that step two is basically just going back to the notary and signing the final escrituras, which then turns into the deed once it's notarized and thus afterward registered by the buyer. Usually the seller doesn't have to do that. The buyer handles all that register. Now, how does the payment work exactly? How do you handle payment without getting ripped off, right? I've been ripped off before, thankfully not for that much money, but not even in Ecuador, in the US, selling to a friend, believe it or not. Not using escrow because, he was my friend, so hey, okay, we'll just do a direct claim deed, quick claim deed or whatever. But anyway, that was a mistake. But how can you avoid selling a property and not getting paid, or having to obviously bother the hell out of someone to pay you, which is a huge pain here in Ecuador, in a country where there's no escrow system, right? So this is what usually happens in Ecuador. I've been in several transactions down here, like the one I just did. Like with the promise of sale, they'll give you, at the time before you sell, they will give you a certified check, right? Or a transfer to your bank account before you pay. And the balance is due at signing of the escrituras, or deed itself, in that step two, right? So don't sign that final deed and don't give possession of the property over until you've signed that final deed. So don't give them possession of the property and don't give them the signature of that final deed until you've received payment in full, right? Which it could be a certified check, which for me, I was a little unclear what's the difference between a regular check and a certified check. Certified check actually has the name of the bank on the check itself, and the funds are, at least how it works down here in Ecuador, the funds are frozen, right? When you go and you take out a certified check from your account, and the bank itself gives you a check, and those funds have basically been withdrawn from your account already, and they're being frozen until that other person deposits or cashes the check. Or the transfer, a lot of times you'll both show up at the notary office. I've done this, and then you confirm transfer to your bank account, be it in the US or Canada or Ecuador or wherever. And then once the funds are there, okay, you sign. And the seller has that kind of comfort knowing, okay, you're sitting right there in the notary, right? So you're probably not going to get up and run away once you have the money. Probably not. So there is a little trust that needs to be had when you're buying and selling a property in Ecuador. This is kind of how it works. The buyer usually pays for all the notary fees and all the closing costs, but the seller in Ecuador has to make sure the predios, or the the property tax, the annual property taxes, are all paid up, including the year where you're selling the property. Even if you're just 1 month in, you have to pay for the whole year. Kind of like I've seen it work that way in the U.S. as well. So So you have to make sure the seller has to make sure all the property taxes are up to date, and the buyer pays for all the closing costs and the notary fees of the transaction itself. So this is how you can avoid getting ripped off, and this is how the sales process works here in Ecuador. If you like this, don't forget to subscribe below. Click the like button, helps the channel a lot. I'm Mr. Second Passport. Take care.